Good morning everyone. Today I'm going to show you how I make a venison terrine, and I'm going to be using some of these venison shanks. It's a really easy recipe to do, and you just slow cook the meat, you pull the meat and then you press it. It couldn't be any simpler, to be honest. So what I've got on my board is 2 venison shanks. I've got a couple of slices of onion, a couple of carrots that I've just sliced up, some rosemary, just a little bit of salt and pepper. I've got a pint of cooled chicken stock. So what I'm going to do, in the bottom of my slow cooker dish, I'm going to put all the onions and the carrots, because this gives it a little bit of a bed for the shanks to sit on, because I don't want it to sit directly on the heat of the hot plate because the meat can stick. And I'm going to pop the shanks in here. Quite large, but we'll get them in there. Then the rosemary I'm just going to pop on top, followed by the salt and pepper. So everything is looking like that. Now I'm just going to top it off with this chicken stock, and because it's cooled it won't make that meat tense up, so I'm just going to add a little bit of cold water to that. But once I've done that, I'm going to pop the lid on this, and this is going to be put on high for about 5 to 6 hours, and just until the meat starts going tender. You can braise this in the oven exactly the same way, cover it in liquid, get some stock veg in there, and I'll probably set it at 140 covered with tin foil, but that will probably take about 8 hours if you do it in the oven. And that's why I like doing a slow cooker, because I think it comes out much quicker. But I'm going to get this on, and then we'll start shredding it once it's all cooled down. Right, so the shanks are out and they're cooked perfectly. I mean, you see that meat is just coming straight off the bone, and that is exactly how you want it. So I'll try and just get it off in chunks at this stage. But it comes away so easy. And this was exactly 5 hours in the slow cooker. And it is surprising how much meat you actually get off shanks, and also things like the neck as well. It does hold a surprising amount of meat. Right, so that's nearly all the meat off these. Right, so once you're left with a clean bone, this is just some bits of fat that's left, so obviously I don't want them. Just put that to one side. Now, depending how you want your terrine, I pull mine, so I've got some chunks and some fine bits of meat. But obviously if you want it chunky, don't break it down as much, and the same if you want it quite fine, like a pulled pork style, and then obviously shred it as fine as you like. And it's a good chance to get in the last bits of big tendon that run up the shank like that. You don't want that in there, so you can run your fingers through. So what I'm going to do with mine, I'm just going to spend a minute or two shredding it up, and I've saved 6, well actually I've actually saved, for my terrine size, I've saved 4 ladles worth of the cooking broth, but I'll show you that in a second. But I'm just going to get all the seasonings ready that I'm going to mix through my terrine. Right, so I've shredded my meat up a little bit. I've left some of it chunky, so I like that mixture of some fine shredded of meat and some chunky bits of meat in there. So when you come to the seasoning of this, you can add whatever you like. So because it's near Christmas, I've got some juniper berries, and these are, oh, they smell beautiful. They are the main ingredient in gin making. So I've got 3 juniper berries that I've crushed and I've chopped up, so they can go in there. I've got some flat leaf parsley, just for a bit of freshness and some colour. And I'm going to season it all up again with some pepper and some salt. It's like I said, you can put whatever you want in here really, but I think the juniper and the parsley go really well with the venison shank. So just give everything a gentle mix, and you'll notice when you're mixing it with your hands it feels tacky, like the meat will feel tacky and sticky, which is a good thing because obviously this is going to help to bind it all together. So once you've given it a mix, you're going to prepare your terrine dish. Now this is my dish and my press, and this is what we call a cold terrine. And what I mean by cold terrine is all the ingredients are cooked off like this and they're set in the terrine mould, obviously cold. So once it's out, it's ready to eat. And what I will do a video on is my game terrine, but we call that a hot terrine because all the ingredients you build up, so you build it up in your terrine mould raw and you cook it in the oven. So that is the kind of difference between a hot and a cold terrine. So once everything's in, well, I've got to say I lined my mould with cling film, just makes it easier getting out. So once you've got the meat in, just with the spoon, just carefully level it out and pat it down, just like that. And I saved some of the cooking liquid. I reduced it down by half. So this has got the gelatin in from obviously the venison bones. And you just want to spoon, not loads in, but probably 4 or 5 tablespoons worth. And I always concentrate around the outside first. And I'll do a couple in the middle, just like that. So that's got a nice covering. So the next thing I'm going to do is just bring in this cling film, and this is the frame or the cradle of my terrine mould. So the dish sits in like that. You get the lid and pop that on, and then you turn the handle and you crank it down till it hits the lid. So with my first one, I'll admit I overdone the tightness of it and it come out firmer than what I wanted. So what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to turn it. I can hear the air coming out of that terrine. So I'm going to stop there. It's just got a good biting point on it. So that's got some nice pressure on. So what I'm going to do with this now is put this in the chiller for a minimum of 6 hours, but I'd probably recommend keeping it in your fridge or your chiller overnight. Well, the terrine has been in the fridge for a few hours now, so I'm just going to get it out and we're going to slice some up. Try and take that lid off. And it looks good. This is the handy part about the cling film. Just comes straight out. That looks pretty good. It's set nice. It's got a nice coating of jelly on it. That's carving really nice, that is. Look at that, you've got all the textures. You've got some of the finely shredded venison. You've got some of the lumps in there. I'm really happy with that. It's not bad for a second attempt with a new press. So there you have it, guys. A venison shank terrine with parsley.